Ladies and gentlemen, we got it. We finally got it. Drunk ass plastered Paul Pelosi, the scumbag investment banker who has been riding the coattails and, according to his friends, cheating on his wife, Nancy Pelosi. Can you blame him? Anyway, Paul Pelosi, and by that I mean Paul Pelosi is getting plastered. Paul Pelosi was on medications. Paul Pelosi was super hammered. And Paul Pelosi has to wake up next to Nancy Pelosi every single morning. So time for a hangover cocktail. Time for a couple pills to clank around in your glass. They make great mixers. And there you go. There's Paul Pelosi's diet. Paul Pelosi was driving through Napa Valley and he smashed his car through a gate, through a fence, into another driver, into a vehicle. Paul Pelosi, drunk. Paul Pelosi, a true danger to himself and those around him. Paul Pelosi has been protected by the system every single step of the way. And now Paul Pelosi is getting a sweetheart plea deal in California. We'll cover it all. But most importantly, Paul Pelosi has been stung and wrung. The dash cam footage is been released. Now, this is why these kind of things are important, because the dash cam footage, the mugshot, all of it is property of the state of California, which is funded by the taxpayers, which is subject to FOIA requests, which means they have to release this stuff. Why is it taking so long? Paul Pelosi went and smashed into his car, plastered, hammered, wobbling through the roads. You're going to see some shocking stuff. You're going to see Paul Pelosi try and bribe police officers, tell them that, hey, you don't know who I am. You're going to see the migrants that he hit. The guy doesn't speak any English, so he's probably an illegal alien. Paul Pelosi smashes into this guy. He's explaining that Paul Pelosi essentially drove directly into him. You're going to see the wreckage of the vehicles. This stuff is shocking. It's worse than we possibly thought. And Paul Pelosi, it looks like, is going to get away with it unless, I don't know, there's a couple of people that are going to be filing different lawsuits against Paul Pelosi. There's a number of organizations that want to push Paul Pelosi perhaps into a civil suit. We'll see what happens. Paul Pelosi getting a sweetheart deal by the prosecutor today, pleading guilty to a DUI. And then, of course, the day that he pleads this, they release the dash cam. Let's play you the dash cam. Let's watch what happened with Paul Pelosi. Whew. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Jesse Waters has the scoop and a great breakdown of the clips, and we're going to break them down with you and Jesse. Let's go.
The picture of Paul Pelosi's DUI is finally starting to come together. Every second of that night was documented in excruciating detail, and we have all of it.
There was a witness that saw the whole thing, but I told him to stick around and he bailed. No idea where he went.
Witnesses on the run? That's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole lot more. We have the dash cam footage, the dispatch tapes, photos, reports, everything. It paints a very dark picture. It's obvious to anyone with two eyes, this is not a misdemeanor. This is a felony. The cops admitted how serious it was on the tape they've been hiding. They told Paulie he was lucky to be alive.
You guys are both actually really lucky that the crash wasn't a lot more serious than it was in terms of injuries. Because there's crashes that I've been to a lot less damage than this, where people have turned out more seriously injured.
The cops knew this was serious, felony level serious. Yet today, Papa Paulie cut a plea deal anyway and only got a slap on the wrist. 3 years probation, a DUI course, some court fees, and 5 days in jail, but he doesn't have to spend any time in jail. He only has to do 1 day of community service. And he has to install a little ignition device, so he has to blow into a little tube every time he starts the Porsche. The rest, knocked out. DUI attorneys in Napa are telling Primetime this is the bare minimum of what somebody could have gotten in this case.
Paul Pelosi is a perfect endemic emblem of the privilege of the elites. We go on and on and on about it on this show, about how there is not hypocrisy, there's a hierarchy in this country, a country that's built on destroying oligarchies, that's built on destroying royalty and royal classes, a country where if you are a prominent person, you should actually be punished more so than a regular person in order to prove that there is not some type of special class. Yet Paul Pelosi is able to get away with this. Check out what he did to this, the victim of Paul Pelosi's blackout drunk driving. We're going to show you exactly what Paul Pelosi looked like in a second. You're going to watch the man slur. You're going to watch him fall over. You're going to watch him try and bribe the cops. But first, let's focus on the victim. The victim is what is presumably a migrant worker or somebody who doesn't speak English, looks a Latino descent, Latinx, if you are woke. Ladies and gentlemen, he wasn't saying Latinx. He wasn't saying much because he didn't have much of his faculties. This man was shocked because Paul Pelosi ran a stop sign and smashed his vehicle. Watch.
Those questions would have to wait while the officers first tended to the victim.
What happened?
I saw the car coming.
He was coming toward the intersection?
From the stop to here, he kept coming.
Very fast?
Fast.
From the left side, right?
From the left side.
And what happened after the accident?
Well, nothing.
I'm going to tell you what you told me, and tell me if this is correct. You were coming in this direction, north, approximately between 45 and 50 miles per hour. You were approaching the intersection. You saw the other car on the other side. He came in this direction at high speed. You didn't have time to do anything.
Brake.
Yes, brake. And then you felt the impact. The car went out of control. After the accident, people started to arrive. Anything else?
That's everything.
Okay, wait here for 1 second.
So the victim doesn't speak any English, and we'll get into that later. So while this is all happening, Paulie was on the other side of the street. He'd somehow crawled out of his totaled Porsche and was busy fumbling through his wallet looking for his right ID, which must have been easier said than done because the police report said that Papa Paul handed them his police donor card instead of his driver's license. Now, Primetime did get one thing wrong about this story, and we need to issue a correction because facts are important. Originally, we told you Paulie P. flashed a gold donor card, but we were wrong and we're sorry for that. Turns out it was actually a platinum card, which you get for a minimum donation of $100,000. It's only for, real big investment gurus like Papa Paul. But the cops weren't buying it. Watch this.
Must be nice to be Paul Pelosi, $100,000 donor to the cops, to the police department. Is this how it works in America? You just go ahead and get out. What do we got here? You get out your little fancy card. You get out your black card when you get pulled over. Do you got this? Do you got this where you live? I don't got this where I live. Wow, I live in Tampa, Florida. Is there some black card I can get where I hand it to the cops and say, hey, look, Mr. Officer, I am rich. Hey, look, Mr. Officer, I have a insider trading connection whose name rhymes with Fancy Pelosi. Don't worry about the fact that I can't stand, slur my words, that I'm on pills, that I'm on every single type of alcohol, that I've been drinking for the last 20 hours, that I just smashed and totaled my Porsche, that I've just smashed into another person, that I've destroyed this fence. Don't worry about me. I got my old black card. Is this a thing? Let me know in the comment section. Is this something you can do? It sure ain't something I can do. And I got to tell you, if I ever get pulled over, and I totally get pulled over, if I get pulled over, then I try and bribe a cop, then I'm going to jail. Yo, that's going to be added to my charges. I'm like, hey, Mr. Officer. Hey, how you doing, Mr. Officer? You want some breath mints? Maybe you let me off. You don't take my breathalyzer. Maybe take some of my breath mints, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink, nod, nod. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable how corrupt this is. Check out Paul Pelosi. Here we go. Paul Pelosi, blackout, drunk, slurring his words, can't do his sobriety test. This is bombshell stuff.
If you feel like you're not impaired, we could just skip to doing a breath test. Yeah, you can grab onto my shoulder. Yeah, so feet together, arms on your sides. You're going to look up at the sky, and then you're going to close your eyes, and then I'm going to say begin. And then I don't want you to injure yourself. Would you be willing to do the breathalyzer test? And I wouldn't want you to fall over and hurt yourself. Are you sure you could complete the test? Okay. Because I really don't want you to fall over and hurt yourself. That's the last thing I want. Right, but that defeats the whole purpose of the test, grabbing onto a patrol car. So I'm requesting that you take a breathalyzer test. It's a voluntary test, but so none of the tests are pass or fail. Are you willing to do the breathalyzer test?
Paul Pelosi could not stand. Did you see him there? Paul Pelosi couldn't stand. He was leaning against the car, and the officer said, "Listen, sir, I don't think that you can even do the sobriety test." That's how blackout Paul Pelosi was. This is how absolutely and totally impaired this guy was. This is the kind of stuff that is a felony. So here's how it works in California. If this is your first drunk driving, well, then you can do time served and get it knocked down to a misdemeanor if you have an impeccable record. It's totally up to the judge. But if you hurt another person, it is a guaranteed felony. If you hurt another person, if you harm them, or if you harm those around you, then it is a guaranteed mandatory felony. So felony charge comes with all these various things: fines, mandatory prison time, mandatory time on parole, perhaps the revoking of your driver's license forever. So Paul Pelosi is definitely a felon. Paul Pelosi should also be made a felon for trying to bribe the police officers. I want to tell you something. Good piece of advice. You get pulled over by a cop, don't try and bribe him. Don't reach into your pocket and try and pull out some black card that's like, "Hey, look, I donate a lot of money." That's what Paul Pelosi was trying to do. Paul Pelosi, when that didn't work, he straight up just told them, "Do you know who I am?" I can't believe this. Watch this clip. Paul Pelosi, "Do you know who I am?"
And when Paulie realized things weren't really going his way, he pulled a, "Do you know who I am?" Wait. Can we hear that one more time? And then this time keep it rolling?
Right. No, I understand who you are, and I'm not here to try to do anything to draw any negative attention to you. If you've been honest with me, there's really nothing that you should be worried about in terms of the alcohol that you consume. If you've been honest with me about your consumption being only two glasses of alcohol.
He said, "I'm a high-profile person." What do you know? Paul Pelosi is sitting there looking at the cops going, "I own you. I am the Pelosi. You know my wife? She rides in and out of here on a broomstick. You ever seen her? Cackling on her way to Taiwan? Broom on fire? You ever know my son? My derelict, cokehead son? That guy? He's going and getting chips. He's going and getting chips done in Taiwan with my wife." Paul Pelosi tried to bribe the cops, couldn't stand, couldn't finish the sobriety test, tried to bribe the cops again, then tried to intimidate the cops. Paul Pelosi's victim says that Paul Pelosi ran right into him. You can see the footage there. You can see the car. It's a wreck. You can see the fence line. It's a wreck. And then the cops are sitting there going, "Oh, man. Oh, yo. Hey, we know you're a high-profile person, but you can't stand. You can't even talk." Paul Pelosi, dash cam footage. It's a 10-minute clip plus it's like 12 minutes long total. So we're not going to play you the whole thing. A lot of it is like dash cam footage, right? Sitting there, a lot of stuff's not happening. It's happening off screen. Other interesting things that happened during this dash cam is you watch Paul Pelosi, again, stumble. You see him like swaying, unable to move. You hear him get really upset when he's told he has to go downtown. And then what happens? Paul Pelosi gets the white glove oligarch treatment here in America. This stuff is disgusting. What happened today? Reading to you from the Daily Mail. Paul Pelosi pleads guilty to DUI, no additional jail time. Paul Pelosi, husband of Speaker Nancy Pelosi, pleaded guilty Tuesday. Driving under the influence, Napa Valley. TMZ reported on Tuesday that Pelosi pled guilty to 1-count DUI. As part of his probation, Pelosi will have to complete an 8-hour course. Oh, wow. He must also put an ignition interlocking device in his vehicle for a year. The charges stem from May 28 incidents. May 28. It is now August 28th, or close to it. August 22nd, I think. August 23rd. Why did it take 3 months? 3 months for us to get the dash cam footage? Because it's all fraudulent. Because these people are scum. Listen to this prosecutor from California explain exactly what happened today with Paul Pelosi in court. He hopped on the show. This guy's a prosecutor in California saying, yo, this court just essentially handed Paul Pelosi on a silver platter the keys to the kingdom, let him off scot-free, and it was all orchestrated. It was all decided ahead of time. Listen to
Following the case with us and joins me now. All right, so Brian, your reaction to what we saw tonight?
Yeah. Hey, Jesse, great to be back with you. This is a scripted injustice. What do I mean by that? The DA, defense lawyer, and this judge, they met yesterday. I don't know if you mentioned that. They all met yesterday.
They
that
did?
never happens. Yes, they met. The judge said, I met the lawyers yesterday. They scripted and choreographed this entire charade today. And they should be awarded, they should be given the Razzie Award. You know what those are?
Yeah.
The awards for the worst.
Yeah.
They all get a Razzie Award, dude. Why? Because Bivens gets up, the lawyer for Pelosi gets up, and she says to the court, Jesse, I'm doing an open plea. What does that mean? That means technically she hasn't struck a plea bargain with the DA. This was an entire pretext and a ruse to show the public that they were not in cahoots. But this wasn't an open plea. They all met the day before, and they scripted exactly went down. It's a travesty of justice. Now, if you go back and watch the tape from this morning, it is comical. I mean, the Bivens gets up, oh, I'm doing an open plea. And then the judge is like, okay, really? And then the prosecutor's like, okay, what is it? And then the judge, let me think about that. Okay. Hey, what do you think, Miss DA? Okay, we'll agree to that. I mean, it was just a total charade, and there should be an investigation done on this. Let me tell you the worst part of this, Jesse, and then I'll let you go. I'll let you talk. The worst part of this is exactly what you were talking about. There is serious physical injury. There were medical records. The DA said today, I talked to the victim yesterday, and he gave me more medical records. A responsible judge and a responsible, unbiased DA would have said, let's put this case over. Let's look at these medical records. Let's see if there is serious injury. Why? Because of what you said. If there was serious injury, which there is, we know, this rises to a felony. You don't close a case if you don't know yet whether it's a serious injury. And if it is a serious injury, this should have been a felony.
And we're looking at these reports about this hearing they had today. He's not even on real probation. He doesn't have to pee in a cup every 6 months. He doesn't have to meet with a probation officer. It's not even real probation, is it?
It's total garbage. It's out here, it's called summary probation. What's that called? What's that really mean? Oh, go sit on your boat and smoke a cigar because you don't have a formal probation officer. Did you know that?
No. So you're saying yesterday the DA met with the judge who met with the defense attorney, and they choreographed this hearing today because we watched the hearing at the office, and the prosecutor, it's almost like she was a zombie. She didn't object to anything. Pelosi's defense attorney ran the whole show. And then they get a slap on the wrist, and all of a sudden the tape comes out, and you're like, oh, my God, these cars are wrecked. There's bruises everywhere. We're finding out this guy doesn't even speak English. He's like 50 years old. I'm not even sure he's from this country legally. And he's still receiving medical care, And this guy gets a slap on the wrist. It's a joke. I'll give you the last word.
No. Yeah, exactly. This is an injustice. There needs to be investigation. This is what happens in our legal pipelines are clogged with Democratic sewer, and that's exactly what happened here. The only way we're gonna clear that pump out is through shows like yours, creating transparency, seeking accountability, and having people vote. Vote in the next election, and make sure we vote for public officials and prosecutors who are going to abide by the law and apply the law equally to everybody in the country.
Well said, Brian. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we are facing. This is it. You heard there the prosecutor saying bruises, hospitalizations, car wrecks, destruction of property. This is a mandatory felony. Paul Pelosi should never be able to drive again. Paul Pelosi should do jail time. They choreographed. This is what it looks like to have full capture of a system. This is not justice. It's injustice. This is a disgrace. It is an abomination. They waited until, this is also choreographed from a PR sense, as they wait. What? Oh, hold on. How did they wait until the date that this was all done, right? So they were able to sort it all out in court today. Paul Pelosi gets off scot-free. Paul Pelosi doesn't have to lose his license or go to jail. Meanwhile, the immigrant is in the hospital still that he smashed into. Nancy Pelosi will sit there and talk about how much we love our immigrants. Meanwhile, Paul Pelosi is smashing them, ramming into them, hospitalizing them, and gets nothing for it. This is the kind of stuff. This is the kind of stuff that lets Americans' blood boil as we watch it. And you should know about it too. It's why, we've essentially been filming for like 20 straight hours, why we're live again right now, because we cannot stop this kind of activity without people understanding that it is not hypocrisy. It's hierarchy. This is an oligarchy. These people are scum. They hate you. There is a system and an oligarchy above you that they want to have their own rules and to destroy your lives at whim. Insider trading, drunk driving, doesn't matter. You're the little people, and we got all the connections. That's how they're able to get away with this stuff until we rip those connections away from them. If we rip the power from them, then slowly but surely they begin to wither, and then they start to look like James Comey. You see that pathetic loser sitting there with his Biden-Harris shirt? Dude, when you rip away the power from these people, it's incredible how pathetic they get, how sickly they become. So I'm looking forward to that. Paul Pelosi should lose his license. Paul Pelosi shouldn't be able to get on Nancy Pelosi's broomstick and go down the street. We hope that there are more lawsuits. We hope that there is more room to fight here. This is an abomination of justice. We'll see. We'll see what happens. That's the news. God bless all of you. Whew. Stay safe out there. Paul Pelosi, back on the road, I guess. Get the hell out of California, man. It would have never happened here in Florida. Would have never happened here. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you in the morning. God bless you. Have a great night. My name's Benny. This is The Benny Show.